Same.
Yeah,
Hey, MG.
yeah. The format, like
Hello.
most of the time, it's just like a natural conversation. And I'm gonna already craft it a list of topic that we can like discuss in the call.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Mm-hmm. Sounds good.
anyway, I think like all you guys here ready, so maybe like we're gonna get started soon. Let me share my screen.
Mhm. Like I look very swollen because of the hay fever. I'm at Prague now, and Poland's are killing me.
That's
Uh,
okay. You look perfect.
thank
I'm cold and I'm. I don't know if I have a cold coming on, but we'll see how it goes. Got a
we will
tea.
survive. Where are you based now? Like Berlin?
I'm back in Berlin now. Yeah, I was traveling for a
Mm-hmm.
while.
Yeah, crazy time. Like Tuesday, Wednesday, I was at Munich for Tom Blockchain Salon. Wednesday evening, drive to Prague, arrived at 2 a.m. And then yesterday I had to give my talk, in 10 hours. And then like now a little bit chilling, but like hay fever is killing me.
Yeah, yeah. I think in our jobs we go, and then your body just says, "Hey, stop." Often.
Exactly.
I was in I was in Toronto after Lisbon. Basically, I had left to go to Lisbon or East Lisbon. And
Wow.
I've been away for a month.
Long haul flight.
Seems like you guys already
Crazy.
work with each other for a while. Okay. Let's get started.
Let's get started.
Okay. Okay. Hello everyone. Thank you for coming back to our community call. And again, like this is the community call number 50, and it's really great to be back in like after 2 weeks. Like in 2 weeks ago, like we have a community call with Paper Moon, and we already have a very detailed conversations with Alberto from Paper Moon about like the hackathon survival guides and also like everything going around in the Polkadot Hub. Today we also like have like two very special guests, such as from WebZero and OMG from Encode Club. And okay, so let's get started. Before we go to like the main topic of today community call, let me introduce a bit about myself. So my name is Tin. I'm a developer lead at OpenGuild, and I think you guys are already familiar with me. Um, so for anyone who not very familiar with OpenGuild yet, so we're a community based in Vietnam, and we mainly like build a community to onboard like builders who interested in Polkadot. Um, like in Singapore, in Malaysia, in Philippines, like any like C countries, that if you want to be on Polkadot, you want to be incubated, you want to be an open source project and need the help from the community, just feel free to join OpenGuild. And in OpenGuild, like we have a lot of events that we already hosted like in the past year and to now, like there's up to like around like more than 20 event that we hosted around this year Southeast Asia market. And we also like have a lot of resources for the builder, so just join OpenGuild and we're gonna like share it with you guys. So to join OpenGuild, just scan the QR code and it's gonna land you to the Discord. Before we go to the main topic, let me recap a bit on like what Polkadot is going right now. So Polkadot already celebrated its fifth year, and 5 years ago, since 26 May, around a few days ago, there was like a Genesis block of Polkadot went live on the mainnet, and up till now, like they're already in 5 years, and hope that like in 5 years later, we're gonna see like the new like the mass adoptions of the Polkadot technology that apply to the more, more humans or so, humans like applications. Yeah. So Polkadot in the recent event in April, Gavin already showed the Quack games running on Jam, and Jam in since like the launch, not like the launch, but since like the announcement of Jam last year, and also like everything about Jam, like the Jam implemented rise and the roadmap of Jam. Uh, Jam and also like all the Jam client team already improve that like the Jam is gonna be the next big things of the Polkadot protocol that is allow like to run the applications on change in real time like with different kind of technologies. But we don't have like a specific details about Jam yet. But here like some sneak peek of Jam, and it's also like upcoming launch of Jam. And new version on Polkadot, the Mover protocol, which is the platform for AI music, is building a change on Polkadot to facilitate the ownership, like licensing and monetization of creative asset. And I already tried the application of Mover protocol, and it's quite cool. So just check it out. Method change already marked is fourth place for like the most NFT volume among like all the blockchains, and it's quite crazy because like Mythos is a parachain built on top of the Polkadot, and we can see like Polkadot can easily like scale any parachain with its core type infrastructure. Okay, so let's get started to and also have a real conversation with our guest speaker today. And the topic that we're gonna discuss today is about like the tip to win hackathon on Polkadot, and also like what to prepare for like upcoming events, upcoming like, competitions. Can you guys like Sacha and also like Omji, can you guys like tell us a bit about yourself, like a brief introductions about like what you guys doing, and yeah.
Sure, I'll go first. I'm Sasha. I'm currently leading the developer relations efforts at WebZero. And WebZero is a company that is focused on events in Web3 for developers with a very strong focus on developer relations, because we believe that you can't just put events together at Web3 conferences without having a really good handle on the things that relates to um, hosting workshops, creating content for developers, creating hackathon tracks, providing mentorship for developers and all these things. So that's kind of what I've been focused on with WebZero. We've been hosting some hacker houses at some of the major Web3 conferences. We were just recently in Consensus, and that's what we do.
So hello everyone, I'm Omji from Encode Club. So we're an education community. We have been working with like whole Polkadot ecosystem several years to onboard developers to the ecosystem and accelerating the early stage founders. We are a chain agnostic community, so anyone who is interested in learning like blockchain, like Web3, they can come. It's mainly for like technical audience, like listening to different types of like education series or like, going to bootcamp, like learning like specific things. For example, like last year we had an ink boot camp so that people can learn like how to create a smart contract using ink, or like we are teaching a lot of different bits. Some years back, one of the first substrate series were like also with us, so that that was perhaps like one of the early time when we were creating the Polkadot content. And then afterwards, when those developers who have first contact with the Polkadot ecosystem, if they want to continue learning and building something, having some kind of playground so that they can test their skills and also get to know some other like-minded people. So we offer like hackathons or like some other in-person like gatherings. So through those, beyond like education, so that like afterwards they can kind of continue their journey as a professionals in the ecosystem is what we mainly do. So maybe some of you may have seen us in different like either Polkadot events or like other events that we are in touch with like different engineers or mentors, including like Sasha from WebZero or like all Paper Moon or like all the other mentors coming and helping us to also onboard developers in case that they need a technical support or something beyond that, such as like marketing support if they become founder, or if they need some support to get a job. So in general, we are here to enhance your a career path, either providing like education or like giving some opportunities to showcase your skills.
Awesome, thank you. Also, like I know that like recently, like Encode Club hosted a hackathon for Polkadot scalability, and WebZero is also like hosted a hack camp. So how do you guys doing so far? Maybe like it's in the beginning of 2025. Maybe like let's start with MG first.
So one thing is we recently had Polkadot Scalability Hackathon. Deadline just passed, like judging going on, and we're gonna have the finale event soon. So we have like, few like pitch practice has been happening. Just like giving a general updates. So this is like a part of big initiative that we often making a like a huge program that it starts with the educate series, follow up with some kind of boot camp, like more intensive like education, and then this gonna be like continue to hackathon and then accelerator. So scalability hackathon is part of this like big initiative that previously we had a like an educate series again to updating the what's happening in the Polkadot ecosystem. It was like a lot also focused on when we were all talking about jam and also like all the updates around like Polkadot. So we had some sessions around that, and then that was the reason why like last year we were touching upon like ink, and this time like a more focus on also like a Polkadot like asset hub with a new possibility that developers can build something using Solidity. And then also another thing is we recently meet also like a Polkadot Jam team at ETH Lisbon, because we were one of the host organizer of it. At that time also like we could introduce Jam to other developers in the local community who are interested in learning something new. So we have a lot of different bits of Polkadot going on, while like at this time, of course, OpenGuild team was very nicely joining us, joining the effort with us for the scalability hackathon to help developers. So that is something like a just ongoing effort among the ongoing effort. One just finished right now, and we are going to have like amazing finale happening soon.
How about you, Sasha?
On the topic of, I think that the different types of hackathons that have been recently happening, it's almost the 1st of June now already, so kind of 6 months into the year. I've seen a really interesting development of like the kinds of hackathons for the Polkadot ecosystem that we've been seeing. So specifically, 2 years ago, MG, you'd have remembered, doing a hackathon in Polkadot was a lot harder because there's a lot less tooling out there. There was a lot less documentation. Tutorials were always breaking. And in terms of the sort of surface area for developer ability to tinker, it was limited, right? It was very limited to, so you're going to learn Rust, you're going to learn how to build a palette, and you're going to launch your parachain. And this narrative, was one that when I was at Parity, I joined Parity just around when Polkadot launched. And the focus then was, we need documentation for parachain developers, because that's that's what we need for the Polkadot ecosystem, right? We need more parachains. But the problem with that narrative and pushing it in front of new developers coming to learn at a hackathon is that it's the kind of learning curve and the step in is very, very rough, right? So what I've been noticing over the few years, but mostly really over the last year and a half, where we're able to kind of more tactfully put types of things you can do on Polkadot in front of developers. One of the major advancements, I would say, in that direction is the work that Papi did, right? Where or DDOT is also a team that is kind of packaging things such that developers can come in and just build a UI for an existing kind of parachain infrastructure or runtime infrastructure. And so that's really nice. So we're seeing these hackathons kind of be able to focus more on things. Now, I think that the scalability hackathon that Encode Club hosted allowed developers to kind of come in with whatever it is they wanted to build. I think there was a ZK track, there was a UX kind of focus track. Now, runtime development and like the complicated steep learning curve stuff is still there. Anyone can do that. In fact, I just came back from Toronto, and there's a team that built a parachain with 3-second block time for a specific game. And that's awesome, right? But now my point is that now we can, especially over the last, 4 months, there's, guys, this really, really exciting thing, which is the Polkadot Hub, right? Where all of a sudden, developers can build dApps just like they were doing in Ethereum and deploy them to Polkadot. Wow, game changer. Game changer for developers and for us, because that means that, I don't need a team of like highly experienced mentors to come and show up at a hackathon and help developers struggling with runtime development.
Yeah, I
And
strongly agree with you that. Oh, sorry for interrupt, but yeah, I strongly
yeah,
agree with you.
just
Like
to finish,
this
that's what,
direction shifting of Polkadot to like Polkadot Hub is like to bridge like the consumer user to the chain easily, and also like open like a new era of application on Polkadot, because now we are not only like develop price change in the hackathon, but we can also like develop the smart contract and focus more on like application UI UX. Yeah.
yeah, completely. So
Exactly,
we just,
exactly. I really strongly agree what Sasha said. It's like amazing, like points there, like how big change is happening.
Mm. But I
yeah,
believe that there are also like a lot of obstacle and struggle for like DevRels and also like teams like Encode Club and WebZero to host the event as well. But we're gonna like come to those questions later. Now go to the next one. Maybe this question for Sasha. Like you know for like creating standout developer event, and I also like attended some of them. For example, like the last Sub-Zero conference event that I joined in Bangkok. So what's your approach to like designing a unique experience to the attendees? Yeah.
I think that like the answer to this question is to it starts with the WebZero team, and each of our individual contributions to how we do events is just integral to the recipe. Let's say, like, the recipe being, we do events. Our thing is a cozy place for developers to hang out at. Call it a hacker house. Call it an open working space. We're going to be hosting a bunch in Berlin. If anyone's in Berlin, in a few weeks, I think June 13th, you should come by. We're going to be hosting the same thing we did last year, but very much in this model of, we pick a cool location where developers will want to come and hang out. We're not talking about networking from 2 to 4 p.m. Be there and there's free drinks, and then you show up and it's like nobody can hear each other talk. It's like really busy. You can't even focus. You're trying to network, but you barely remembered the last person you saw 2 hours ago. We're talking about really creating an environment for people to feel comfortable networking, hanging out, coming back to between events. And so I think that's been a really important piece of our contribution for Web3 event spaces during conferences. Now, on top of that, and I like to think of it like, we make things interesting. Like, we had a Mario Kart competition in Toronto.
Mm.
And people love that. Like, developers are like really busy all day, like kind of, focused like from 9 a.m. onwards. And then they have a place to just come and hang out and have a laugh with their friends. We host workshops too. We try to make workshops engaging by definition, like of, not just the kind of, this is a talk and it's done in 45 minutes, ask questions later. We're tossing around, like, we have this like catchbox mic. You might have seen it in Sub-Zero. And we try to make this kind of engagement for people that are in the audience that are there to learn, to make them feel comfortable and not shy, but also for people presenting to tell the audience what they're working on. We did this at Sub-Zero too. I was very careful with kind of picking builders that are kind of up and coming and giving them a stage. So this is the kinds of things we do with WebZero.
But also like a personal like curiosity, like when you host like a hack camp, what kind of motivation that you think like it's gonna connect like developers to things like games and things like Mario Kart? Like what's the motivation that you can come up with those ideas?
I think very much like the great work that Encode Club has been doing. Encode Club is multi-chain, right? It's not just focused on one ecosystem. Now, we have kind of, so to speak, very different business models. However, in the approach and spirit, we welcome anyone from any chain. It's never going to be, you're not in the club because you're not Polkadot. And I think that's been very successful because, the thing is, Tin, like, people are connected. They can be connected as developers. Maybe we're tribal, I'm a Rust dev, you're a JavaScript, you don't get me, maybe. But as people connect over a good cocktail, right? Or Mario Kart, right? And so that's what, kind of figuring out things from that angle, I think, makes for a much more impactful event where you're bringing developers, no matter their background or their interests, into the same room, and that's where the magic happens. That's what we do. We bring people together and things happen.
That's really
So
cool.
yeah, just to finish, like, then after our events, people are starting to maybe collaborate on a project. People are going to have an idea because they came to a workshop, And I think also it's so important, like that, Yumji, maybe you can comment on this. It's so important to bring people from different ecosystems together, because otherwise, what we did at Sub-Zero, I think, is a perfect example. You know, we made it open for other people from Ethereum community also, because otherwise you're just in an echo chamber of the same people that you see again. From an innovation perspective, if you study behavioral psychology, you know, and you know, there's studies on like birds that don't see any other birds or any other environment, they're going to only evolve in a certain way. Like this is kind of what how I draw parallels from like basic kind of human connection studies.
Yeah, also like when I check out like events from WebZero, it does create like an impressions for me that this event has some kind of uniqueness. Like I remember like in the last Sub-Zero conference there, like you guys like have about like cyberpunk, right? I don't remember exactly, but yeah. Also like for OMG, like I mainly know about like Encode Club to like hackathons, especially like recently the Polkadot scalability hackathon. So I also like curious like what is your approach to like these developer events for like hosting these developer?
So, so you mean like what kind of like developer events we are hosting and what's the kind of philosophy behind?
Yeah, you can say so.
So I mean mainly what we are doing is like in four pillars. Like one is like more like a public education series. So it's like a for technical audience, but open to anybody to listen in. Maybe more like a focus on like what's happening. So for example, you know, when Polkadot 2.0 was like keep being discussed in the community, we were teaching like what is agile core time, what is async packing, what is elastic scaling. Yet it's not like a how to say like a building something, but rather you are taking some kind of technical lectures so that even non-technical people, if they want to, they can sit it and hear, and then their usually motivation is they want to be a great like a product person, great marketer, so they want to understand the ecosystem. While if you're a technical person, you will actually have a deeper understanding on architecture or how things are working and looking for the following program. And the following program is usually either like bootcamp style or hackathon style or the combination. Bootcamp is more like hands-on then, so that what you can do with those tech. One of the great example was when Ink was like introduced to the ecosystem. So they're like we were having like Ink bootcamp or Substrate. So they're like you have a specific course focused on language or like a tech stack. And then a hackathon is like finally so that you have some playground, they can come and they can play with those technology. And then usually like different parachains and then different ecosystem partners like WebZero, Papermoon, all different mentors coming. And those mentors going to be providing some workshops and advices so that they can connect the dots. I know like you prepare some questions about challenges later on. Just giving a glimpse of that is Polkadot is very difficult ecosystem for new developers. As Sasha mentioned that it has been like that and still I think it is, but it's getting better. So they're like, hey, those kind of education was trying to providing them what kind of dots are in the ecosystem so that they can connect it within the Polkadot also beyond, because blockchain itself is very, very difficult to navigate. Maybe many developers heard about, oh, like Bitcoin, oh, Ethereum, oh, some NFTs, oh, Solana, they come. Then now they're thinking, okay, like Polkadot, what is that? Ethereum, what is that? So difficult to decide even what to start from because each of them is actually not easy product to understand if you understand really, really well. So what we provide is the opportunity, like being open, chain agnostic, so people can see and follow some high level educations. And then once when they like, they go into low level, like they start to code, they start to create something. And even after that, they may change few ecosystem to try, like maybe they learn Rust, oh, they like really like Substrate, but then they realize that, oh, Solidity is actually maybe fun too. Let them explore things. And then once when they feel like, oh, this community resonate with me, because every blockchain, if you think about blockchain as a like, I don't know, Disney character, you can think about that all the blockchain are different, right? So that they're gonna see that, oh, this ecosystem really fit into my character. Like I love Polkadot because they're so serious about decentralization. Oh, philosophically, what they do, I love it. Then they decide. Then we continue kind of help them. That's there comes like more like accelerators or like when we do the in-person events so that they can have actually in-person meeting with those people and then they can build their company, they can build job in the ecosystem. So there's a lot of different bits, but our approach is like always be open. Like you cannot just anchor them. Like you can always bring, horse to the water, but you cannot force horse to drink water. So provide the water and make that very nice environment around that so people can enjoy. But then, like once when they come, let them choose. So that's our kind of philosophy of the developer events, that provide interesting content, provide like interesting environment that they can hang out, like-minded people. People are adventuring around the all different ecosystem and blockchain, the new tech itself. But when it comes to the decision they need to make, which ecosystem they want to commit and continue. So that's our general philosophy and the way we are creating the developer events and collaborating with our partners to create, how to say, events fitting to their spirit.
Yeah, thank you for that's a very great answer. And I can like summarize like both approach. Let's have like one similarity that like as far as we can make like the developers can vibe with the community, can vibe with the event, then it's gonna be okay. Okay, so also like questions for MG. You work closely with student and early career developers. Like, how do you support them as they explore emerging tech like Polkadot? You mentioned like Polkadot is like a very challenging technology to like rise the adoptions of builders, right? And so how do you guys like surpass those obstacles?
So like first thing is like as mentioned in previous question, they're like we try to provide like wide opportunity that they can play with, and we try to convince our partners protocols that this is really important. So they're like you can think about on the other side, right? Like from the protocol point of view, they want to find their perfect match developers who gonna love the ecosystem in one interaction. You kind of want to fall in love with the first sight, but it's really difficult. So they're like those early, especially like early career developers, students. They are like a designed to be undecisive because it's really like early stage in their career path, and they cannot just like see one thing and decide to stay forever. So what we do is like while providing wide range opportunity that they can explore together. But one lesson we learned, and also like it's really important, is work with the good coordinators in the ecosystem. You cannot do that alone. So for example, like Polkadot, the reason like we found it very interesting but very difficult is, as just Sasha mentioned, they're like let's say building like a runtime or like a parachain is not for a beginner. And then like once when someone who love that and stick to the ecosystem become OG. So Polkadot has been very nice, cozy for OG people, but new people when they come, it's not hostile per se, but you feel very difficult to break into that circle of the people who are very almost profi. So that as a newbie, if you don't understand the ecosystem well, you feel difficult to get the docs, you feel difficult to get the support, even though people are very like nice and friendly. But there's quite a gap between like technical understanding, and it was difficult to fill that gap. And then like so then like education was really important. But then we saw that like just like providing education as like a one partner is not really working. You need to work with all the other ecosystem partners together to push the same direction. So this time is also like one of the example that like we had a chat with the Radha from Web3 Foundation really long time, that how we can work with everyone contributing to the ecosystem as a like DevRel, or like a providing some educations or event organizers, or even the each protocols like parachains together. And those kind of like coordination is really important, and we always try to chat with the core teams so that we can be more aligned with the community. So if community are all like now interested in about like something else, but if you said that like oh, let's go back to all time and then like learn something new, like it wouldn't work, right? But now everyone is like more like jointly discussing. So like that's something like we do is like keep it open for audience, but within the ecosystem who can contribute like us, coordinate together. So that's something most important lesson I would like to share to anybody who want to join this force, and also for ourselves, that makes us going further together.
Okay. Curious, like, how do you guys like work together? At first, like, I think Encode Club and WebZero already collaborate before, right?
In here and there in a way, like how to say, even though we don't make perhaps like a event titled like Encode Club WebZero hosted together, whenever Encode Club making like some dev events, like WebZero team is always open to come as a mentor and supporting. So you can see that like the coordination is not necessarily like you have a title hosting together, but it's important that those resources available in the ecosystem answering things and so on. So we can see that in our dev community, in our Discord servers, like different like contributors of ecosystem, OpenGuild as well, like you guys will keep answering even though it's not related to your bounty. So I think that's the spirit. So that's something I really like, that like Sasha is like very passionate and trying to helping developers, like regardless it's the directly hosted by WebZero or like any other events.
Yeah, actually, one comes to mind. When we did the Web3 Summit hackathon in Berlin, we put together sort of this hackathon whereby we wanted to make sure that there was some support for the teams, even if they didn't win after the hackathon. So I messaged MG and I was like, what does Encode Club think about this? And she's like, this is exactly kind of the things we do. We offer boot camps, we offer these things, blah, blah, blah. And so we had direct collaboration there with hand-holding teams post-hackathon. And that's something that WebZero really cares about. And one thing I didn't mention is that that's kind of like, yes, we host hackathons, we host workshops, but we really want to make our spaces the place where people come back to continue working on their projects and getting help in their projects. So naturally, we have to partner up with entities like Encode Club or even OpenGuild. You gave some good support during Sub-Zero, and really what I'm outlining here is having this it's like a big kind of bird's eye view of the developer journey from coming into the Polkadot ecosystem and continuing to stay. And I think we all participate in making that journey seamless for people, right? It's a patchwork of efforts, and I think on this call we have a good diversity of these types of leaders in that space.
That's pretty cool. Next question. So if a protocol or project wants to collaborate with you guys, like what's the best way to get started? I guess like joining a hackathon.
It really depending on also the stage of the protocol and project, right? Because if the project and protocol is like big enough and they want to actually have developers getting onboarded to their ecosystem, they can always like directly like contact to us, and then maybe like making hackathons together, joining the bootcamps. Depending on the size of the project, we often recommend that either they making a flagship hackathon, like huge one, like we do like Polkadot hackathon. But if they're like small parachain, we would recommend join Polkadot hackathon as a partner instead of having your own, so that like you can resonate with the ecosystem developers, unless like it has a complete different goal or different tech stack that doesn't make sense. But on the other hand, there's another way to collaborate if your project is really small yet, and then you are just building up your project. Then perhaps you are more near to the participants, because we are not only having like bootcamps or hackathon for early stage hackers, but we also have accelerators and incubators to help those projects keep building their products while getting some support. So it really depending on, so if they're more mature stage protocol who want to be teaching their tech and then try to onboard like more bigger group of the developers, perhaps then they can join our program, partnering, providing bounties, try to giving a workshop, and depending on if they are mature or like just getting on track, we would recommend different approach. If their project very very early stage, they're like looking for like any first traction or something like that, from our point of view they're more near to participants than like partners. So they're like those projects, we usually recommend them to participate to get more exposure and start to get like first 5 developers for your ecosystem before being a partner in the future.
Also, let's also like because like mentions about the incubator and accelerator. I remember like you also like mentions about like helping developers who not win hackathons. So I'm curious, like what kind of activities that you're gonna onboard those builders who not win the hackathon, and what kinds of like pipeline you're gonna get them in to continue the building on the change and
Yeah.
So
Oh, I thought that was a question for me, but never mind. Go ahead, Yumji.
it's actually a question for you, Sasa.
Oh yeah, so it's a question for you. So this pipeline is very much being built out, but it has like, I think, I can kind of call out some key pieces of it, which essentially boil down to, we've got a hackathon that happens. Teams, whether they win or not, that's very important to me, because I participate in hackathons and I'm like, I have a really good idea. Like, that's too bad that the judges didn't see that. Like, I want to continue building. Like, and that the thing is, like, as organizers, I think it's important to make that the difference between the really cool submission and the really passionate team submitting. Right. And the second group, or target focus, I think, is what's more important to foster in an ecosystem of developers that are continuing to build and bringing their projects to the next level. It's the people and not necessarily the projects. Now, the projects, then we can talk about that, but I think it's a different conversation that has to do with bringing investors and things like this. But it's less the people and more the projects in that case. But so to support these people, like, the funnel right now, it's a patchwork, right? There's no really good funnel right now without kind of reaching out to this person that maybe can give you advice on like where to apply, what grants, and like things like this. And maybe Encode has a better funnel that I don't know about. But right now in the Polkadot ecosystem, typically what I recommend teams to do is, after a hackathon, basically I point them to the grants programs that exist. At the very, depending on them, like, it's the spectrum is, there's some grants programs that are easy to apply to, and then there's go get funding it from the treasury. But I would avoid doing that, because I mean, in the past we did that because that's all we had. But right now we have some good stepping stones, right? What are those stepping stones? The Fast Grants program. I'm a curator on it too. So I get to see all these projects coming in, and we can give them up to $10,000 to continue building their idea, right? So these are people that are just finished a hackathon. They're like, okay, I'm close to an MVP. I just need a little bit more support to keep building it. That's exactly the purpose of the Fast Grants program. And then we have, I know that the open source developer bounty exists, where they give up to $30,000. Now, this is already narrowing the scope, right? Like, the scope being, it's not for any type of project. They have their own kind of requirements. You have to be building open source. You have to have a certain amount of experience. And then the Web3 Foundation does give grants to a wide variety of builders in the Polkadot ecosystem. Within all of this, what I try to do, and what WebZero is positioning themselves in post-hackathon, is that, yes, we are the people that you're going to be talking to get support on questions, advice, and things like that. So at the very least, builders have that support. Because also, these are people that I've been talking to for the whole week. These are people that I have like direct contact with already, and we basically are available for teams that need support on like advice and stuff like that post hackathon.
I wanted to quickly add something like what Sasha said. Like, very important thing is, like, hackathon winners are not necessarily the founders. Like, the project which is like winning material in the hackathon is sometimes often different from, like, not necessarily always, but often different from the project which could be a long-term success. It can be a very short-term project which is very interesting for the hackathon, but not necessarily the founder. So like depending on like how it goes, of course, some founders are using hackathon as the opportunity to build and get some exposure, which is very, very clever approach. And it also gives them a small, bounties that like they can continue building, bootstrapping. But at the same time, we should acknowledge that there's a lot of non-winners who might not be as attractive as a hackathon projects, but really like good projects that maybe if they continue building, it gonna become a base tooling of the ecosystem, or it can create a like interesting like product out of it. So like a different route, like those people who can become a founder. Like in our case, we run actually incubator after the hackathon each time. But as Sasha mentioned, there's a lot of different initiatives which if you know, you know, but if you don't know, you don't know. That's the problem. So that's the problem of like very decentralized ecosystem, that you need a coordinator or some indexer. They're like, now I can tell, developers that like, oh, like, but that incubator doesn't work with my timing, but I'm looking for X type of things. I can tell. Go to Sasha, ask, he knows, Then like either it's WebZero team doing it or like a Web3 Foundation hosting that grant directly. We need few people in the ecosystem who has a holistic overview of what kind of opportunities are coming. It's really difficult to keep on track. So that I think it's important that like, we, all of us actually are in a group chat, like communicating to each other. If there's a team based in like, Southeast Asia and they're looking for the grant program, I can tell, maybe go to Tin, ask him, maybe he will know what I don't know. And I think that connection is very important. And then one thing I also want to bring up is, often we think that hackers coming to hackathon want like money prize, but also a lot of them want to have internship opportunity, or like they want to have like some other support as a founder. So I want to emphasize that those like protocols or ecosystem projects who are thinking to go to hackathon, like also please offer them some jobs. That's actually really win-win for both of us, because not every developers want to become a founder, which is going to be nonsense. They're actually looking for a job. They want to build their portfolio. And for protocols, it's a win-win because they already like their bounty. They're building something for them. Why not giving them an opportunity to work with them? So I hope that that's going to be a little bit more norm, so that like protocols offer like other opportunities beyond money.
Yeah, I strongly agree with both you guys. But not because I'm from Polkadot. As a blockchain learner, like when I join like other hackathon in other change, I can say like we are doing like amazing job for all the different initiative in Polkadot right now. Like there's a bunches of brands. Like there's a UX bounty, fast brands, and also like Web3 Foundation brand and incubator. There's a lot of brand on Polkadot right now for like newcomers. And they say like, yeah, like everyone like control Polkadot. Polkadot is for everyone. Okay, now we talk a bit about like recent events from both you guys. So the Polkadot Scalability Hackathon and also the Hacker House from WebZero. So you recently like ran a challenge hackathon focused on the Polkadot hook. So what's inspired that focus, and what was like the response from the developers on these events? Maybe start with Sasha first.
Yeah, so now with the launch of the hub, and the hub is currently what that means currently, the test net is still being worked on. It's basically, there's an MVP where developers can launch their dApps written in Solidity. It compiles basically and runs and executes on the Polka VM. So that means that the narrative there is simple. It's, hey, you can build your dApps in Solidity and run them on the hub. Beyond that, what I like to emphasize, sort of like, in the hackathon kickoff and consensus, my talk really focused on the what you can do that is special on Polkadot thanks to that, right? And so that is essentially, if we're not getting too technical, but your smart contracts can actually use and be like, your business logic in a smart contract can be using the infrastructure of the network, of like basic things like staking functionality, governance functionality, that is like, the stuff that you as a developer can't like change or anything, but you can use that in your smart contracts. For technical people, basically, it's like you can use pre-compiles of those things into your dApps, and that's really powerful. And so people get it. Like, people are like, yes, this is cool. So that's already a big win. Like, for people to be like, yeah, like, dude, you don't need to convince me any longer. Now, there was I would say a fair amount of challenges because of the nascency of the launch of the hub, namely, so we're trying to get all of the Ethereum tooling compatible with like, developers shouldn't feel a difference between using and deploying on the hub than they would if they were deploying on an Ethereum L2 or EVM compatible chain that's Ethereum like. And so that tooling is still being worked on. So there were some issues with deploying contracts and things like that, but that's the point of the hackathon, right? That was the point for us. It was to understand what people are doing, what they would want to be doing, and where they might be running into issues. So overall, to answer the question here, actually, what inspired that focus? Well, it's brand new, hot, cutting edge. Like, this is really the game changer for the Polkadot developer capabilities. And I think the response was generally good. I hope that not too many people were frustrated that hard hat wasn't working as expected, but I don't think it hindered people from submitting some cool projects.
I see. Thank you. What's your point of view, Omji?
I can totally resonate. Well, as like Sasha mentioned, for developers, it's interesting to learn something new, and it become much more accessible now, right? So they're by providing a opportunity to build with tech stack they already know, this is going to be a huge win because everyone can now then explore the ecosystem while they have much less steep learning curve, and also how to say, it gives them a different types of opportunity because perhaps some other EVM projects or some interesting contract existed that outside of the Polkadot, but Polkadot don't have, or maybe because of the unique nature of the Polkadot, they can tweak and make it more interesting. So there's a lot of different way people can work on. So for developers, it's interesting. But for me, the more important part is also for protocol itself, for Polkadot team. As Sasha mentioned, there's some several issues where keep emerging during the hackathon, and this is really normal thing. And we often forget that in Web2, the whole purpose of a hackathon is projects going there to get feedback. It's not finding a stellar project which going to be next unicorn startup on your ecosystem, and you're gonna throw the money to them, but rather all of them actually going to test their documentation, test their SDK working or not. There's so many Web2 hackathons before Web3, joining the Web3, I used to go to Web2 hackathons. I was literally once working for Microsoft Bounty, and their engineer said, "Oh, it's working on my machine," and yeah, but it's not on mine. And this is really typical thing. And he had to go through sit with us 4 hours to make it work outside of his Linux machine. And that was really good learning from him because they had to use that chip for a user dev hub and developer had to build, but they just realized it wasn't really working following their documentation if you're not using Linux. How So we often think that a hackathon is serving only purpose of finding the best devs and featuring their project and make them get funded, but also it's important to get to know what kind of frustration developers are facing, while that shouldn't make them further from the ecosystem, but have a good interaction yet that you follow up and they stay around, because hackers will not be just living because they had the issue, but they might be living because there's no follow-up. So us following up, us helping them. So this time also, we were telling okay, there's several mentors who are working on those problems in collaboration with engineers to address that. They know that actually it's their contribution. Nicer thing is even those who perhaps reported, we could give little bug bounty rewards, but otherwise overall I would say that the inspiration of having this is oh my god, new thing is coming, why not introducing this in fun way? But not only for the developers, it's fun protocol, it's really, really important to get feedback. And that was the biggest inspiration to onboarding Polkadot Hub in this hackathon and introduce to everyone.
But with thousands of blockchain out there is EVM compatible, how do you guys, what's kind of approach that you guys reach out to these developers, new developers and also existing developer on the chain, and encourage them to build on the Polkadot Hub?
From our point of view, it's actually really straightforward because, as we mentioned, we are chain agnostic, so a lot of people are coming to our ecosystem of Encode, just a group of developers who are keep coming to our programs day to day, quarter by quarter, are very agnostic developers who are just entering the ecosystem, have been around a few months learning different things. So all those people just telling them, hey, there's a new opportunity, so outreach to them is quite straightforward for us, especially every quarter. One is starting next week, which I already told Polkadot Scalability Hackathon hackers to join if they are interested in, is we have an EVM bootcamp happening every quarter. which means that there's like 100 developers every quarter who got accepted to bootcamp, learned EVM, and they're tinkering around and they want to build something new. And those people, then we can tell them like, hey, this hackathon is happening, so maybe you want to build a project as your like, graduation project because you can have fun. So for us, it's quite like embedded in our user workflow because we have a lot of developers come to learn, and then we introduce those hackathon as their great opportunity to build something.
Thank you. How about your experience running a hacker house, Sasha?
So the Hacker House makes things kind of, we're able to highlight like actual like workshop content and maybe bring builders that are very knowledgeable in that area that would excite developers to participate in the hackathon, right? So I think, I mean, for me, I said it before, like that there's a lot that's really exciting where like Solidity developers building dApps are able to port over their dApps to Polkadot and benefit from a whole bunch of things. So essentially, what those whole bunch of things are, and they're going to be coming into the Q3 part of the roadmap of the launch of the hub, is that all of the functionalities of the runtimes of the system chains of Polkadot are going to be able to be exposed as precompiled contracts to the dApps. And so that means that, for example, you could have like Solana-like developer experience where like things are kind of already hard coded in the runtime, like balances, NFTs, things like this, right into your business logic dApp. So the permissionless deployment of decentralized applications on Polkadot has never seen such a prospective and prosperous kind of potential. And then you have another very exciting thing, actually. This very exciting thing, and I featured it on my slide in consensus, it's that we're going to be able to run smart contracts at near native speed with the just-in-time compilation features of the PolkaVM and the palette revive around it. And so that's one cool thing. But really, the meta cool thing is everybody in the Ethereum community is starting to talk about RISC-V. Have you guys heard about this?
Yeah.
Right? Well,
Yeah,
Polkadot's
Of course.
from Vitalik.
year.
Yeah.
Right? Polkadot's had it for a year. Like we know everyone in the Web3 space knows about RISC-V and its advantages over, for instance, the WASM environment. And really its ability, or it being the best thing, positioning for future proofness, etc. Well, it is in the Polkadot hub, guys. It's like, that is so exciting. And I think, again, like I said, people are seeing it, people are understanding it. It's our first few hackathons where we're highlighting it. We're going to be highlighting it going forward a lot more, but I think it's very we're in a lucky place from the perspective of people, trying to expose the cool things that you could be building on Polkadot, because it's not just deploy your dApp on another EVM compatible chain. There's a lot more to it.
Yeah, great. Like the tech advancement of Polkadot right now is also like one way to, like draw more builders into Polkadot, even though it's, nearly the same as building on Ethereum. But like Polkadot right now, it has like all the tooling, like as you mentioned, like palette revive, and also like PolkaVM, and all the tooling like revive to compile the Solidity to RSC-V or like PVM, and that's really amazing to see that advancement in Polkadot. Okay. So about like all the hack camp and also like all the hackathon challenges. So what kind of use cases or project idea that already emerged from these events? We start with Omji first.
Cool. Just just not to miss the timing. I know that like community core was scheduled for an hour, so I guess like it is gonna be last question ish. Am I correct?
No, actually that's okay. Like we could do like 1 hour or 1 hour 10 if you guys are like comfortable.
Yeah. Like because I have to actually leave for another meeting soon, but like I will try to a little bit then like being concise on this. So that like for this time like
I will not like mention specific use case because we still didn't have the finale yet. And if I say like what is interesting, it might be like giving out some information which shouldn't be announced yet. But what I can tell is we had a like interesting track. One is like a copy pasting some existing like EVM and then like bring them. And then another thing is like ask people to build like original like projects. And initial anticipation from us is that people who are very active on EVM projects already, it's easier for them to port their project into the Polkadot and try to having some tweaks, right? But surprisingly, actually, we had a much more original project than copy-paste projects, even though both had the equal opportunity to win same track. So I wanted to say that like people really like to be creative and tinkering around. This is another like a prove that developers are not just looking for like an easy building and gaining like bounties, but rather they still are very interested in tinkering things and how to say like try to like prove themselves and like upskill and try to build something fun and communicate with community. So that's something I would say that like something emerged from this hackathon. I can see that it is interesting tendency, even though we often may think it would be much easier for people bring like existing project with a little tweak, but they decide to build from scratch and making something fun.
How about you, Sasha?
A wide variety of things. I'll keep it short. We had 3 main tracks. One was build something completely new. One was continue iterating on your idea. And the last one was a community track. I always like to do community tracks because that's the one where, I'm sorry, multi-chain track. The multi-chain track is one where I invite someone, for example, building on Aptos to just integrate something Polkadot. Yeah, I shared a link with you. Maybe you can share it with the community. There's all of the different submissions that we got. And there was a really wide variety of submissions in terms of what they're using, like their tech stack, Ink, Solidity, runtime development, as well as kind of business ideas. So I was really impressed.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I definitely let's share this to like the Discord channel. So like as we already have a very long conversations, I still have like a bunch of questions, but I think like you guys also already quite tired. So maybe like because like next week we're gonna have like a hack camp in Da Nang about like Polkadot Hub and also like Polkadot SDK as well. So maybe like can you guys like give some tips for builders to like on how to win the Polkadot? Yeah.
I always say like build something you care about. The hackathon is going to be a place where you're going to explore an idea in depth, and you're going to run into issues, whatever. But like you need to intimately like love this idea, right? Then the tip is I don't know. Yumji has some good, probably some from a hackathon organizational perspective tips like stay hydrated, like kinds of things.
And caffeinated. Yeah, like from my point of view, like there's a few tips. Like if you are not were not in hackathon before, it can be quite practical. Is actually hackathon is really short. You cannot build all the features you think. Stay focused on core features, which really matters. Like let's say if you're building something for, let's say, some reputation layer for fact check, don't focus on your time connecting wallet like half of the time. If you have to pass that on, pass. And then focus on like how you can then use the contract to build a like reputation layer, how people can vote for fact check. That's your core feature. Then you can think about everything else. That's a very common mistakes, not only Web3, Web2. It's actually from my experience that I was like focus on like building a social login in a very nice flow that you just like miss the time. So please like write down what is like a 2 core feature plus 1 if you have extra time. It's most important for your project and build that. And then that is the part like a judge is gonna care the most. So that is something I want to give. And then perhaps another one is like in a way, presentation matter. I don't mean it like try to like overhype your project. It's more like once when you're submitting, please give basic effort to make it easier for judges to look at your project. Clean README, clean presentation. It doesn't need to be like so pretty like a McKinsey like presentation, but what you need is like having a clear README saying what kind of things you're building, what technology you used, and then what kind of features are there. And those you have or not, it's much easier for judges to, how to say that, like digest your project. So please like give like at least like some minimal effort to provide those descriptions in README, and then like try to perhaps like adding some screenshots of your project, so that like judges will not miss that the best feature you built because it wasn't explained there and they cannot read your code line by line.
Yes, thanks you guys for very insightful tips. I'm gonna definitely like cut that sort videos and then like republish to the hack camp. And that's also like the end of today community call, and we have a lot of insight from Sasha and also like Omji. And thank you guys for coming to the community call, and hope that we can see in the future community call.
Thanks a lot for having us. It's awesome that you guys do this. So big up to the OpenGuild team for facilitating. And I would, with pleasure, come back on one of these calls.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for the invitation. And everyone, if you want to get some feedback, if you want to be in touch, like always, you can find me on Twitter easily with my name. Perhaps it's the only few people in the world had this name, so you cannot miss it. And then good luck for all your hackathon projects and also future career path. And I really wish that we're gonna come across in near future again.
Okay. And again, like if you guys like want to join the OpenGuild Discord, or have any questions for our guest speaker today, like feel free to join our Discord and then like ping your question there, and we definitely gonna forward your messages to our guest speaker. And thank you. See you guys in the future. Yeah. See ya.
See ya.
Bye bye.